Mark, we always talk about small business as the job creator. They're really not. New business is the job creator, and by default, new business tends to be small. You start small, you grow, you hire people. The numbers right now around small business are very, very dire.
Yeah, they are. As you point out, many are failing, continue to fail, particularly obviously in those industries that have been directly impacted by the pandemic. And business formation remains very depressed. Yeah, I think you're characterizing the state of affairs among small businesses accurately. It's a very difficult time, and it's a reason to be not only nervous about the strength of the current economic recovery, but about the recovery, how long it's going to take to get back to full strength. It's going to take quite some time because many of these businesses aren't going to make it to the other side.
They're not going to make it because they don't. These aren't giant corporations that can tap the corporate equity or the corporate debt markets. And I don't want to get political, Mark, but let's be honest. The government decided winners and losers, particularly in states like yours, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York. They said Walmart and Target, you can stay open, and everybody else has to shut down. Not really sure why, but anyway, that's in the rearview mirror. I mean, let's say you're 57 years old, you own a Hallmark store, you've owned it for 25 years. It's the way you've put your kids through college. Now you're shut down at 57 years old. What do you do? What can the government do, if anything, by the way, either state or federally, to try to make sure these families do not lose these businesses?
Well, the most obvious thing most immediately is to continue to provide support. I mean, you mentioned the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, and that was good. I mean, it was over $500 billion got into the economy back in the spring. I think it expired in July, and that was very helpful. So that was a partial bridge to the other side of the pandemic, but the bridge isn't complete. The pandemic is still raging. These businesses are still disrupted. They can't open, and if the virus intensifies here, we may see some backtracking on how these businesses have reopened, and so they're going to need more support, and that goes to the stimulus package that Congress and the administration are now debating, negotiating, trying to come to terms on, and they need to come to terms on it because if they don't, then that money won't get out there, and we will see these many more of these businesses fail. It'll mean the recovery will be even more difficult and take longer to get back to full employment.
Yeah, and of course, everybody knows that a second wave is likely. As far as cases, it's outcomes, thankfully, that we care about, and hospitalizations and ICU visits, thankfully, have gone down, even as cases have risen. That's the good news, I guess, Mark. And we just showed the unemployment rate. And the unemployment rate's a weird thing, is it not? Because you have to say you're looking for work. There's sort of a nuance to the language. And unfortunately, what it seems like, and I've heard Steve Leisman talk about it, a lot of people are simply now giving up.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, the unemployment rate, official unemployment rate as of September is 7.9%, which just by itself is obviously very high. Here's a factoid for you, Brian. The highest the unemployment rate gets on average in post-World War II recessions is somewhere between 7 and 7.5%. So at 7.9, we're still above that typical peak in unemployment. But the other thing, as you point out, is we've got millions of people, 5, 6, 7 million people, who stepped out of the workforce altogether. They're not looking for work. And if you don't look for work, you're not counted as unemployed. And many of those people probably are dealing with the virus, right? They may be sick, their parents, their children, because of schools staying online. We've seen a lot of female participation decline as they have, mothers have had to stay home and take care of those kids. So, there's a lot more stress in the labor market than is represented just by the unemployment rate.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.